Welcome to Horizons of Thought. I'm Donald Derrick, and today I'm going to talk to you about conspiracy theories. I picked this topic because I'm not particularly good at following my own advice when listening to conspiracy theorists. It is especially hard for me to be mentally generous with conspiracy theorists who cannot follow the logic of how processes work. That is, people who can't follow a chain of events. Let me explain by using a famous example from 9/11 conspiracy theorists or truthers. The argument is that jet fuel cannot burn hot enough to melt steel. That is absolutely true. Jet fuel won't burn hot enough to melt steel. Even a jet fuel fire burning over multiple stories of a building, igniting all the wood, paper, plastic, and solvents in offices, burning them for 57 minutes like the South Tower, or 102 like the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York, won't actually melt steel. But it certainly can seriously weaken steel, and weak steel is very weak.
Do you see how the structural steel is supporting this anvil? It's very hot, but not melted. Obviously, it is not melted. I put this in the anvil. Now watch this. I'm going to take my pinky finger,
And that steel you saw, when it was in the forge, was cooler than the 1,000 degrees Celsius of the World Trade Center fires at the top floor of the burning section. Being kind to 9/11 truthers is also difficult for me personally. In September of 2001, I worked in an already saddened office in Boston, one preparing to entirely shut down due to layoffs. Shortly after the first plane crash, all of us who still had jobs watched the towers burn on a television hastily set up in the main meeting room. I remember telling one in the room that those buildings were going to collapse, that buildings can't stay up in a fire that long. It seemed none of them believed me. I told them one had collapsed when I noticed the first pieces of window glass shatter above the fire line. Many were starting to shout me down until, about a second later, when they could all see what I had seen a second before. After that, all arguments ceased. But later, I watched truthers spin stories I knew were not accurate. At that time in my life, I lacked calm, so I decided to avoid arguments about 9/11 conspiracy theories. And today, we are experiencing a rise of conspiracy theories related to the coronavirus. So here are some things I would say to you if you encounter conspiracy theories at this time. First, listen to the person. You aren't going to win an argument here. Your facts and skills won't change anyone's mind, so you shouldn't try to do anything as prosaic as win. Besides, sometimes conspiracies are real. The United States and a whole boatload of other places really did spend a lot of money looking for UFOs for many decades. Just one of these groups of studies was called Project Blue Book. It spanned from 1952 to 1970. And very serious-minded people still, to this day, suspect that there is something to the stories of alien sightings.
If you become president, are you really going to tell the truth about UFOs?
I have said I want to open the files as much as we can. But there are enough stories out there that I don't think everybody is just sitting, in their kitchen making them up.
Here's another example. The CIA really did, once upon a time, experiment with LSD and other drugs in mind control experiments. The program was called MKUltra. It shows up in fictionalized form in the television show Stranger Things. In the real world, Milos Forman, the author of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, actually volunteered for the program. Same with Robert Hunter, who was associated with Jerry Garcia and the Grateful Dead. Personally, I think these folks probably signed up for the free drugs. But I don't actually think mobster James Whitey Bulger was so enthusiastic. From what I can tell, no one asked him what he thought. He was volunteered for the program. Oh, and here's one you've probably personally experienced. According to the New Zealand Herald in 2018, Hewlett-Packard reached a $1.5 million settlement in a class action lawsuit that alleged it designed its printer cartridges to shut down at an arbitrary expiration date, and also shut down when you use non-HP cartridges. Like inkjet isn't enough of a fraud without changing the percentages. The old mob boss, Meyer Lansky, would have seriously disapproved. Don't cheat the customer. If you garner a reputation for being fair, more suckers will play, and the odds are always on the house. And when I watch these crazy scenes from the movie Enemy of the State, you know, where cameras followed Will Smith's character Robert Clayton Dean around town.
Roger that. I'll need a minute on satellite visual, over. Okay, satellite imagery coming through.
Roger that. Patch visual, my location. Confirm visual, thank you much. Everyone there? All units, target heading north on rooftop.
I thought that was utter nonsense. But a few years later, when Edward Snowden revealed just how much of our personal data is collected by the United States National Security Administration.
Talk a little bit about how the American surveillance state actually functions. Does it target the actions of Americans?
Originally, we saw that focus very narrowly tailored as foreign intelligence gathered overseas. Now, increasingly, we see that it's happening domestically.
And he told us how they hacked private companies like Google and Yahoo and used that information for prosecutions and renditions. Well, at that point, I was left wondering whether the NSA really could do things like this. And I genuinely don't know anymore. I've also been to an Interspeech Acoustics conference where, after hearing some of the talks, I wondered out loud whether US spy agencies were treating Enemy of the State like a shopping list. Heck, sometimes agencies like the National Reconnaissance Agency, or NRO...
Set up a link with the NRO.
That's good.
Yes, that NRO. Lean into it, like with the logo for their NRO satellite launch number 39. Yeah, that's some serious Dr. No-level logoizing there. Except no, it isn't. That image was an in-joke from their engineers who were fed up with an Octopus harness, a system with many confusing wires, making it difficult to finish building the satellite. The harness took over their world, and they decided to snark about it with a very non-subtle logo. They left you thinking of...
All that you say could be true.
When really it was more like... Oh, and the source of your conspiracy theory might seem, or even be, utterly crazy. I mean off the charts.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Serious crap.
Look, no one is deliberately trying to turn the frogs gay. But long before Alex Jones came by, there were hundreds of articles on the topic of physical sex change in amphibians and fish due to female or estrogenic compounds in the water. This is a real issue, caused by the fact that human bodies don't absorb all the medical drugs we take, like birth control pills, and they leave the body when you pee. Bonus! Even some plastics have these compounds. But don't worry about plastic. There isn't much plastic floating in water, is there? Search on Google Scholar and you'll find not just articles, but systematic reviews of whole groups of articles, all on this topic and going back more than 20 years. Chemists and biologists used to talk about this quite openly in casual conversations. CSI's Season 8, Episode 169, entitled A Case of the Cross-Dressing Carp, even addressed the potential effects on humans. Not so much after Alex Jones's tirade in 2017. Now no one talks about the underlying water contamination issues. Alex Jones is just too offensive. He's made up too many fake stories, and so scientists are afraid to look like they are in any way supporting him. When people do write articles on the topic today, they get names like eco-pharmacovigilance. No chance of anyone connecting that to Alex Jones's concern about gay frogs, unless you actually know what to look for, read the article, and make the connection yourself. Which is in a way unfortunate, because either there is an issue with estrogenic compounds in water supplies, or there is not. Reality doesn't care if the proponents of that reality are well respected or not. Reality does not care if they characterize reality carefully and effectively. Reality does not care if its proponents are otherwise prone to making stuff up. Reality always exists entirely independent of its spokespeople. Always. But what if you know the conspiracy theory is wrong, that every detail is wrong, and you know this from education and experience? On the extreme end, it's hard to listen to a conspiracy theory like this one.
I'm just wondering what the heck is in our water supply? What the heck is in our oxygen supply of the metallic oxide salt that create a rainbow effect in a sprinkler.
Honestly, I want to believe the woman in that video was trolling us all, and we are all her suckers. The alternative, that she is just taking herself seriously, it's too painful to contemplate. And I have the same experience with today's conspiracy theory that humanity is not suffering from a coronavirus that is infecting the world, but that it is all a cover-up for the effects of 5th generation or 5G telephone networks. A lot of you have seen this image on Facebook and other social media sites before those sites flagged and removed it. It doesn't help that those images were removed in a manner so heavy-handed as to beggar belief. Oh yeah, you're going to convince a person who believes in conspiracies by using over-the-top strong-arm tactics like the big media firms have. Give me a break. Yet, if you are in medicine, science, or engineering, or communications, you have immediately realized that this particular theory has had what we refer to as issues. You see, 5G networks are the next generation of mobile technology. They can transmit information between devices, faster off the starting line, 1 millisecond, and with much faster speeds, 10 gigabits per second. That means you can download your favorite movie in a matter of a minute. 5G networks do this using electromagnetic radiation, the same stuff that makes up radio waves, microwaves, and light. SARS-CoV-2, which is the name of the novel coronavirus, on the other hand, it is a virus. It has been studied, DNA sequenced, and well, it looks like a virus. And any scientist with even a modicum of understanding of how viruses work will tell you that the spread of 5G and the spread of viruses happens at very different rates. 5G roll-up involves putting up transmitters everywhere. It's just a wee bit slower than the spread of a virus, even at mainland Chinese construction speeds. And anybody who is in telecommunications can also tell you that the locations of 5G don't match the locations of the spread of COVID-19. For instance, 5G started in South Korea in April of 2019. COVID did not reach South Korea until January 2020. Oh, and it pretty much stopped right now, yet 5G is most definitely still a thing in Korea. In contrast, there's hardly any 5G in Italy. And the novel coronavirus is everywhere now. That's what the word pandemic means. A pandemic is an everywhere epidemic. And I can't find any way to connect 5G to the spread of a virus. Me, the guy who now helped make a now well-attested connection to puffs of air on the skin affecting how you hear speech. There's no connection between COVID-19 and 5G. But if you dig deeper, you will uncover a whole host of issues with 5G. Look, it's easy just to flippantly say 5G is safe. 5G networks run on milliwavelength electromagnetic radiation, which have far too little energy to ionize anything. That means milliwave signals can't break your DNA unless it's basically cooking you. And you would feel it if it was cooking you the same way you would feel your hand burning on a hot stove. Look closely at this image and you'll see that the visual spectrum, light, which you look at with your eyes, is much closer to ionizing radiation than milliwave. But at the same time, as I noted already, electromagnetic energy does not have to be nuclear or ionizing to hurt living things. This is why it's a bad idea to try to dry children and small animals in a microwave. Heck, with enough EM output, even very low energy radio waves can make a person's body generate literal sparks. These lower frequencies actually get inside your body more easily than the higher frequencies. But at the same time, the old home internet wireless 2.4 gigahertz setting is actually optimal for heating water. That's why your microwave uses that exact frequency. If your wireless network produced enough energy to hurt you, you would have been hurt by it a long, long time ago. I myself still run a 2.4 gigahertz wireless network in my house, and I sit right next to it regularly. Which is all a long way of saying people have had some reasons to worry about radio, microwave, and milliwave communications, but not much of one. It is very true that we have tended to implement these communication systems throughout the 20th and 21st century without bothering to test their safety particularly well. But we also haven't seen much go wrong with these tools, other than the fact that radios of all kind are still brutally unreliable. If these things were particularly dangerous, we would know in visible graphic ways because we use these systems everywhere, all the time. So if you are talking to someone who worries about electromagnetic communication conspiracies and they are otherwise capable, encourage them to study the topic. They can learn engineering, read up on how product testing works, and study how we look for ongoing health problems in our society today. Maybe they can actually make the world safer instead of using their worries to spread fear. Certainly laughing at or being cruel in response to their arguments won't help any of that. But hey, perhaps the person you are talking to just loves conspiracies. In that case, you could introduce them to the most ironic aspect of this conspiracy theory. The link between COVID-19 and 5G networks might itself be the result of an actual conspiracy. Blackbird AI, a company that specializes in detecting disinformation campaigns through the use of artificial intelligence, has concluded that most of the posts linking 5G and the virus are originating from automated sources, a deliberate misinformation campaign, which is right up there with this scene from the movie Conspiracy Theory.
So you ever wonder about all these militia groups, survivalist-type kooks from the right-wing side? They say that they're defending the country from the UN troops. These guys are yelling so loud, my theory is, and this is a conspiracy, pal, that they are the UN troops.
Except the evidence for Blackbird AI's claim is quite excellent. And what person who believes a conspiracy theory wants to find out that the very belief they hold is the result of an actual conspiracy? That should make anyone think.
Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life.
Thank you for watching Horizons of Thought. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe. If you wish to support this channel, check the link below to DonorBox for details. Thank you, and see you in a few days.